We're continuing with our reading of the Srimad Bhagavatam. We're on Canto 7, Chapter 14, Ideal Family Life. We're taking up with the reading with Kesava Bharati Maharaj reading at text number 11.
Oh. Dogs, fallen persons, and untouchables, including chandalas, dog eaters, should all be maintained with their proper necessities, which should be contributed by the householders. Even one's wife at home, with whom one is most intimately attached, should be offered for the reception of guests and people in general. Purport. Although in modern society the dog is accepted as a part of one's household paraphernalia, in the Vedic system of household life, the dog is untouchable. As mentioned here, a dog may be maintained with proper food, but it cannot be allowed to enter one's house. What to speak of the bedroom? Outcasts or untouchable chandalas should also be provided with the necessities for life. The word used in this connection is yatha, which means as much as deserved. The outcasts should be given money with which to indulge in more than they need, for otherwise they will misuse it. At the present moment, for example, low-class men are generally paid quite amply, but instead of using their money to cultivate knowledge and advance in life, such low-class men use their extra money for wine drinking and similar sinful activities. As mentioned in Bhagavad Gita, Chaturvarnamaya Shishtam Gunakarma Vibhagashaha, there must be 4 divisions of human society, according to the work and qualities of men. Men with the lowest qualities cannot do any work that requires higher intelligence. However, although such a division of men must exist according to their quality and work, it is suggested herewith that everyone must have the necessities of life. The communists of the present day are in favor of supplying the necessities of life to everyone, but they consider only the human beings and not the lower animals. The Bhagavatam's principles are so broad, however, that it recommends that the necessities of life be supplied to everyone, man or animal, regardless of good or bad qualities. The idea of giving even one's wife to the service of the public is that one's intimate relationship with his wife, or one's excessive attachment for his wife, by which one thinks his wife to be his better half, or to be identical with himself, the idea of giving even one's wife to the service of the public is that one's intimate relationship with his wife, or one's excessive attachment for his wife, by which one thinks his wife to be his better half, or to be identical with himself, must gradually be given up. As formerly suggested, the idea of ownership even of one's family must be abandoned. The dream of material life is the cause of bondage in the cycle of birth and death, and therefore one should give up this dream. Consequently, in the human form of life, one's attachment for his wife should be given up as suggested herein. Text 12. One so seriously considers one's wife to be his own that he sometimes kills himself for her, or kills others, including even his parents, or his spiritual master or teacher. Whoa! Therefore, if one can give up his attachment to such a wife, he conquers the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is never conquered by anyone. Purport. Every husband is too much attached to his wife. Therefore, to give up one's connection with his wife is extremely difficult. But if one can somehow or other give it up for the service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then the Lord Himself, although not able to be conquered, control of the devotee. And if the Lord is pleased with the devotee, what is there? It's unobtainable. Why should one not give up his affection for his wife and children and take shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead? Where is the loss of anything material? Household life means attachment to one's wife, whereas sannyas means detachment from one's wife and attachment to Krishna. Text 13. Through proper deliberation, one should give up attraction to his wife's body, because that body will ultimately be transformed into small insects, stool, or ashes. What is the value of this insignificant body? How much greater is the Supreme Being, who is all-pervading, like the sky? Purport. Here also the same point is stressed. One should give up attachment for his wife, or in other words, for sex life. If one is intelligent, he can think of his wife's body as nothing but a lump of matter that will ultimately be transformed into small insects, stool, or ashes. In different societies, there are different ways of dealing with the human body at the time of the funeral ceremony. In some societies, the body is given to the vultures to be eaten, and therefore the body is merely abandoned, and in that case, the body is consumed by small insects. In sometimes.
Is that something else?
From the Handal.
Okay, thank you.
Sometimes the body is merely abandoned, and in that case, the body is consumed by small insects. In some societies, the body is immediately burned after death, and thus it becomes ashes. In any case, if one intelligently considers the constitution of the body and the soul beyond it, what is the value of the body? Antavanta ime deha nityas yukta shariranaha. The body may perish at any moment, but the soul is eternal. If one gives up attachment for the body and increases his attachment for the spirit soul, his life is successful. It is merely a matter of deliberation. Text 14. An intelligent person should be satisfied with eating prasad, food offered to the Lord, or with performing the 5 different kinds of yajna, panchasunya. By such activities, one can give up attachment for the body and so-called proprietorship with reference to the body. When one is able to do this, he is firmly fixed in the position of a Mahatma. Purport. Nature already has an arrangement to feed us. By the order of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, there is an arrangement for eatables for every living entity within the 8,400,000 forms of life. Eko bahunam yo vidadati kaman. Every living entity has to eat something. And in fact, the necessities for his life have already been provided by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Lord has provided food for both the elephant and the ant. All living beings are living at the cost of the Supreme Lord, and therefore one who is intelligent should not work very hard for material comforts. Rather, one should save his energy for advancing in Krishna consciousness. All created things in the sky, on land, and in the sea belong to the Supreme. All created things in the sky, in the air, on land, and in the sea, belong to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And every living being is provided with food. Therefore, one should not be very much anxious about economic development and unnecessarily wasting time and energy with the risk of falling down in the cycle of birth and death. Text 15. Every day one should worship the Supreme Being who is situated in everyone's heart, and on this basis one should separately worship the demigods, the saintly persons, ordinary human beings, and living entities, one's forefathers, and oneself. In this way one is able to worship the Supreme Being in the core of everyone's heart. Sorry. I'm sorry, didn't mean to.
16. When one is enriched with wealth and knowledge, which are under his full control, and by means of which he can perform yajna, or please the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one must perform sacrifices, offering oblations to the fire according to the directions of the Shastras. In this way, one should worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Purport: if a grahastha or householder is sufficiently educated in Vedic knowledge and has become sufficiently rich to offer worship to please the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he must perform yajnas as directed by the authorized scriptures. Bhagavad Gita 3.9 clearly says, Jagnar tat kamano nyatra loko yam karma bandhanaha. Everyone should be engaged in his occupational duties, but the result of these duties should be offered for sacrifice to satisfy the Supreme Lord. If one is fortunate enough to possess transcendental knowledge as well as the money with which to perform sacrifices, one must do it according to the directions given in the Shastras. It is said in the Srimad Bhagavatam 12.352, Kriteya dhyayato vishnum tritayam jajato mukai dvapare paricharyayan kalota dhari kirtanat. The entire Vedic civilization aims at satisfying the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This was possible in Satya Yuga by meditation upon the Supreme Lord within the core of one's heart, and in the Treta Yuga by the performance of costly yajnas. The same goal could be achieved in Dwapara Yuga by worship of the Lord in the temple. And in this age of Kali, one can achieve the same goal by performing Sankirtan Yajna. Therefore, one who has education and wealth must use them to satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead by helping the Sankirtan movement that has already begun, the Hare Krishna movement, or Krishna Consciousness movement. All educated and wealthy persons must join this movement, since money and education are meant for service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. If money and education are not engaged in the service of the Lord, these valuable assets must be engaged in the service of Maya. The education of so-called scientists, philosophers, and poets is now engaged in the service of Maya, and the wealth of the rich is also engaged in Maya's service. The service of Maya, however, creates a chaotic condition in the world. Therefore, the wealthy man and the educated man should sacrifice their knowledge and opulence by dedicating them for the satisfaction of the Supreme Lord and joining the Sankirtan movement. Jagnai Sankirtana Prayer Yajantihi Sumedasaha. 17. The Supreme Personality of Godhead Sri Krishna is the enjoyer of sacrificial offerings. Yet although his lordship eats the oblations offered in the fire, my dear king, he is still more satisfied when nice food made of grains and ghee is offered to him through the mouths of qualified brahmanas. Purport: as stated in Bhagavad Gita 3.9, Jagnar tat kamano nyatra loko yam karma bandhanaha. All fruitive activities should be performed for sacrifice, which should be directed toward pleasing Krishna. As stated elsewhere in Bhagavad Gita 5.29, Bhoktaram Jagyatapasam Sarvaloka Maheshwaram. He is the Supreme Lord and enjoyer of everything. However, although sacrifice may be offered to please Krishna, he is more pleased when grains and ghee, instead of being offered in the fire, are prepared as prasada and distributed, first to the brahmanas and then to others. This system pleases Krishna more than anything else. Furthermore, at the present time, there is very little chance to offer sacrifices by pouring oblations of food grains and ghee into the fire. Especially in India, there's practically no ghee. For everything that should be done with ghee, people use a certain type of oil preparation. Oil, however, is never recommended for offering in a sacrificial fire. In Kali Yuga, the available quantity of food grains and ghee is gradually diminishing, and people are embarrassed that they cannot produce sufficient ghee and food grains. Under the circumstances, the Shastras enjoin Jagnai Sankirtana Prayer Yajantihi Sumedasaha. In this age, Those who are intellectual offer yajna or perform sacrifices to the Sankirtan movement. Everyone should join the Sankirtan movement, offering to the fire of this movement the oblations of his knowledge and riches. Our Sankirtan movement, our Hare Krishna movement, in our Sankirtan movement, our Hare Krishna movement, we offer sumptuous prasada to the deity and later distribute the same prasad to the Brahmanas, the Vaishnavas, and then to the people in general. Krishna's prasada is offered to the Brahmanas and Vaishnavas, and the prasada of the Brahmanas and Vaishnavas is offered to the general populace. This kind of sacrifice, chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra and distribution of prasada, is the most perfect and bona fide way of offering sacrifice for the pleasure of yajna or Vishnu. 18. Therefore, my dear king, first offer prasada unto the Brahmanas and the demigods, and after sumptuously feeding them, you may distribute prasada to other living entities according to your ability. In this way, you will be able to worship all living entities, or, in other words, the supreme living entity within every living entity. What?
When we go down Parikama, they say Mandar Seva.
Mandar?
Bandar, monkey.
A Bandar, yeah, Bandar Seva.
That's considered okay.
I think they're monitors. They're relatives. I tried to put it there.
Oh, Marju's going to say something. No, it's really good. It's about monkeys. No, the monkey thing's good. Okay. You do a monkey thing and he'll respond to it.
So we see here in Govardhan, pilgrims feed the monkeys bananas and dried chickpeas. Monkey Seva.
Offered without judgment or comment.
And then I was saying, well, they do that because they think that the monkeys are relatives of Hanuman. They're descendants of Hanuman. That's actually how they think. When we were doing this, when we were doing the refurbishment of this place, and we made the boundary wall, and we made I wanted to put kind of like a very light electrical, not to hurt them, just to scare them. And the devotees wouldn't do it. They said, no, we can't do that. The locals will kill us because they're relatives of Hanuman. They worship them. So next time they push you off the roof, rethink it.
Yeah, Shriji got pushed off the roof by a monkey. It's happened several times recently. They'll chuck you off the roof. Not here. But in Vrindavan. Where there's a little open roof area and you come out and the monkey's standing there. 18. Therefore, my dear king, first offer prasada. Did I read that? 19. Purport. To distribute prasada to all living entities, the process is that we must first offer prasada to the Brahmanas and the Vaishnavas, for the demigods are represented by the Brahmanas. In this way, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is situated in everyone's heart, will be worshipped. This is the Vedic system of offering prasada. Whenever there is a ceremony for distribution of prasada, the prasada is offered first to the Brahmanas, then to the children and old men, then to the women, and then to the animals like dogs and other domestic animals. When it is said that Narayana, the Supreme Being, is situated in everyone's heart, this does not mean that everyone has become Narayana, or that a particular poor man has become Narayana. Such a conclusion is rejected herein. 19. A Brahmana who is sufficiently rich must offer oblations to the forefathers during the dark moon fortnight in the latter part of the month of Bhadra. Similarly, he should offer oblations to the relatives of the forefathers during the Mahalaya ceremonies in the month of Ashvina. The Mahalaya festivals are observed on the 15th day of the dark fortnight of the month of Ashvina and mark the last day of the Vedic lunar calendar.
20 to 23. One should perform the Shraddha ceremony on the Makara Sankranti, the day when the sun begins to move north.
Is that coming up now?
That's when it moves into
What's the way now?
It's going to get to a few different days.
Scorpio, 8th, 9th, 10th. No, Scorpio's 8. Scorpio's 8, Sagittarius is 9, Capricorn is 10. Scorpio is after Libra. Scorpio is 8, Libra is 7, Virgo is 6, Sagittarius is 9, Capricorn is 10, Aquarius is, Aquarius is 10, and Pisces is 12.
When we feel it,
Can you feel it coming? Da, 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 da. It's gonna set you back on your heel. Oh, that's Senator Champlin, 1967. What? Where you feel it. Well, it depends on where you are and what's going on, and again, it depends on who you are, and you don't feel anything except for love for Krishna. I've seen it. I'm watching it with my own eyes.
sit here to receive these benedictions all day long.
Wait. Let me look at this. Let me see this. I'll read your palm. I'm not only a good astrologer, I'm a palmist. Come on. Oh. One should perform the Shraddha ceremony on the Makara Sankranti, the day when the sun begins to move north, or on the Karkata Sankranti, the day when the sun begins to move south. That's Cancer. One should also perform this ceremony on the Mesha Sankranti day and the Tula Sankranti day in the yoga named Vyatipata, on that day in which 3 lunar tithis are conjoined during an eclipse of either the sun or the moon, or the moon or the sun, on the 12th lunar day, and in the Shravana Nakshatra. One should perform this ceremony on the Akshaya Tritiya day, on the 9th lunar day of the bright fortnight of the month of Kartik. Yeah, too bad. On the 4 Ashtakas in the winter season and the cool season, and on the 7th lunar day of the bright fortnight of the month of Magh, during the conjunction of Magha Nakshatra and the full moon day, and on the days when the moon is completely full, or not quite completely full, when these days are conjoined with the nakshatras from which the names of certain months are derived. One should also perform the Shraddha ceremony. It sounds like you should do it all the time, and that's what's happening here. One should also perform the Shraddha ceremony on the 12th lunar day when it is in conjunction with any of the nakshatras named Anuradha, Shravana, Uttara Palguni, Uttara Shraddha, or Uttara Bhadrapada. Again, one should perform this ceremony when the 11th lunar day is in conjunction with either Uttara Palguni, Uttara Shraddha, or Uttara Bhadrapada. Whew. Finally, one should perform this ceremony on days conjoined with one's own birth star. Finally, one should perform this ceremony on days conjoined with one's own birth star, Janma Nakshatra, or with the Shravana Nakshatra. He's calculating all these things in his mind. Can you see that he's going like, look at his abacus. Purport. The word ayana means path or going. The 6 months when the sun moves toward the north are called Uttarayana. on the northern path, and the 6 months when it moves south are called Dakshinayana. That's in the Bhagavad Gita, 8th chapter, or the southern path. These are mentioned in Bhagavad Gita 8:24 and 25. The first day when the sun begins to move north and enter the zodiacal sign of Capricorn is called Makara Sankranti. And the first day when the sun begins to move south and enter the sign of Cancer is called Karkata Sankranti. On these 2 days of the year, one should perform the Shraddha ceremony. Vishuva, or Vishuva Sankranti, means Mesha Sankranti, on the day on which the sun enters the or the day on which the sun enters the sign Aries. Tula Sankranti is the day on which the sun enters the sign Libra. Both of these days occur only once a year. The word yoga refers to a certain relationship between the sun and moon as they move in the sky. There are 27 different degrees of yoga, of which the 17th is called Vyatipata. On the day when this occurs, one should perform the Shraddha ceremony. A tithi, or lunar day, consists of the distance between the longitude of the sun and that of the moon. Sometimes a tithi is less than 24 hours. When it starts after sunrise on a certain day and ends before the sunrise of the following day, the previous tithi and the following tithi both touch the 24-hour day between the sunrises. This is called Chyaha Sparsha, or a day touched by the same portion of 3 tithis. This is why sometimes we can't fast on the day that's actually Ekadasi. Then we do it on Dwadashi because the tithi overlaps, touches. Yes. Srila Jiva Goswami has given quotations from many shastras stating that the Shraddha ceremony of oblations to the forefathers should not be performed on Ekadashi Tithi. When the Tithi of the death anniversary follows on the Ekadashi day, the Shraddha ceremony should be held not on Ekadashi, but on the next day, or Dwadashi. In the Brahma Vaivarta Purana it is said, Ye kurvanti mahipala shadham chaiga dine trayastin narakam yanti data bhokta pirelakaha. If one performs the Shraddha ceremony of oblations to the forefathers on the Ekadashi Tithi, then the performer, the forefathers for whom the Shraddha is observed, and the Purohit, or the family priest, who encourages the ceremony, all go to hell. Well, there you have it. Text 24. There it is. All of these seasonal times are considered extremely auspicious for humanity. At such times, one should perform all auspicious activities, for by such activities a human being attains success in his short duration of life. Purport. When one comes to the human form of life through natural evolution, one must then take the responsibility for further progress. As stated in the Bhagavad Gita 9:25, Yanti Deva Vrta Devan, one who worships the demigods can be promoted to their planets. Yanti Madhyajino Pimam, and if one practices devotional service to the Lord, he goes back home, back to Godhead. In the human form of life, therefore, one is meant to act auspiciously in order to return home back to Godhead. Devotional service, however, does not depend on material conditions. Ahitakiya pratiyata. Of course, for those who are engaged in fruitive activities on the material platform, the times and seasons mentioned above are extremely congenial. Means safe, right?
Yeah.
Safe. You slid under the tag.
Similar to Bhagavad Gita chapter 8, where Krishna describes that the yogi. Thank you. Similar to what Krishna says in chapter 8, when Krishna says that the yogi calculates the time to leave the world in order to attain the most desired destination. But after describing that, Krishna says that the devotees are not concerned. They go on with practicing their devotional service and they depend on Krishna for that.
Precisely.
Okay?
Precisely. Do you remember the verse?
Yeah. Naite sriti partha janam yogi muyati kashana tasmat sarveshu kaleshu mamanusmara yujaja. The yogi
Yoga yukto.
no. Naite sriti partha jana yogi muyati kashana tasmat sarveshu kaleshu yogi yukto bhavarjuna.
Yoga yukto bhavarjana. Yoga yukto
Narupa
bhavarjana.
masya tatopa labhyate nanto nachari. No. I mean, what's the last verse? Yagyeshu
No.
Huh?
Vaneshu, Vedeshu,
Vedeshu yagyeshu tapasu chaiva daneshu yat punya palam pratishtam adyeti tat sarvamidam vaditva yogi param stanam upaiti chadyam. Om tat saditi Srimad Bhagavatam Gita.
Text 25. Whew. During these periods of seasonal change, if one bathes in the Ganges, in the Jamuna, or in other sacred place, or in another sacred place, if one chants, offers fire sacrifices, or execute vows, or if one worships the Supreme Lord, the Brahmanas, the forefathers, the demigods, and the living entities in general, whatever he gives in charity yields a permanently beneficial result. Slid under the tag. You slid under the tag. You're safe.
Yes, questions?
Yeah, I guess first I was just feeling so much gratitude for Prabhupada for making things easy and simple, because growing up in India, saw so much of this and it was so off-putting, and to come to Krishna consciousness and
What did you
find
see? Like in your family, there was
yeah,
some
like days.
smarta
Yeah,
thing
this
going
day
on?
you don't do this, and that day you're not supposed to do that, and it was just, it was just very, very unattractive growing up. And then Krishna consciousness is so simple and so easy. So really appreciate the simplicity. But I guess my question is that the Bhagavatam starts by saying that it's rejecting all materially motivated religions. And so when we see these kind of verses where it seems to talk about Shraddha and worshipping forefathers or worshipping the demigods, how do we understand that?
Well, keep in mind the context. We're within the Varnashrama right now. And, under the whole topic of Varnashrama, we understand that by performing your dharma in a particular ashram properly, then you're able to you're able to advance. Yesham tuntakatam papam jananyam punyakarmanam te tondva mohanir mukta bhajanti mam dhridavrata. Those who are not sinful means they're following, for instance, the Pancha Yajna is there because we naturally perform sinful activities and so forth, and those who are performing their dharmas properly are trending towards the sattva gun, and they're also controlling their senses, and they're more able to advance in devotional service because of being within the Daiva Varnashrama.
Another way of looking at it is that in the context of what like you're saying, in the context, then it says, but you don't have to do all those things in the purport if you're doing devotional service. You don't have to, there's no hard and fast rules for that. That's Lord Chaitanya's mercy. So everything that is in the Bhagavatam, even if it seems like it's doing something material, it always ends up connecting it to devotional service and putting it in proper perspective.
Yeah, the Payovrata vow was an example of how, somebody who had a material desire and then a propensity to follow rules and regulations and vows, but then because it was connected to Vishnu, ultimately got purified by performing the rituals and so forth. And all, the Varnashram is all based on ways in which ordinary people, in their ordinary occupations, as Krishna says in the Gita, can attain perfection in this lifetime. Because, in a roundabout way, if you're following the Varnashram, you're pleasing Krishna. Much the way that if you're following the traffic laws back home in the United States, you're pleasing Donald Trump. Well, because he's the president of the United States, so he represents the leader of the organized system within America. And if on certain level you're doing that, then you're in sync. That's the idea, to be in sync with the desire of the Supreme through the Varnashrama, through your work. You get purified, but it all has to be connected to Vishnu. Otherwise, we know from those two verses, Mukhabahuru Paribhya Purushasya Shama Sahai Chatvaro Jagniri Varna Gunar Vipradeo Pratak. Then the next one is? The next one says that if you're doing Varnashram and you don't connect it to Vishnu, it's useless. It doesn't have any effect at all. Mukhabahuru Paribhya Purushasya Shamai Saha Chatvaro Jagniri Varna Gunar Viprajayo Pratak. Then Satchad Shvaram Tapijananti Stanat Brashta Padantyada. Translation.
This is from 11.5.3. Translation for both of them?
Just for this one.
If any of the members of the 4 Varnas and 4 Ashramas fail to worship or intentionally disrespect the personality of Godhead, who is the source of their own creation, they will fall down from their position into a hellish state of life. It's from Chamasa Muni.
Follow up.
Yeah, just an additional point is I find it very interesting that the Bhagavatam starts by saying it's meant for Paramhansas and people who are completely free from envy, and then it's so liberal that it accommodates people of all different stature, even people who have, like you're saying, some material motivation, and through the process can get purified. So how it's meant for the highest, and also it benefits even those
I
that
like
are...
Maharaj's point too. You also have to take it under proper guidance. Because Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says at the end of his commentary on the Bhagavatam that the Bhagavatam is like Mohini Murti, that she tricks the demons and she caters to the devotees. So the Bhagavatam also, like the Mayavadis, when Krishna meets the gopis and he tells them, oh, you should meditate on me. It's about Gyan, and I'm always with you within the heart. They say, see, this bhakti's not the highest. This is like they're meeting with the gopis, and now Krishna's telling them these things about like meditating on my impersonal form and everything like that. See, it's like that. And so Vishwanath points out, see, they've been tricked. So it's there for people that there are other aspects there that unless you're a devotee, you won't understand how they actually connect to the process of pure devotional service.
Another piece also is that, as we can see from different personalities like Prithu Maharaj and others who are perfect in devotional service, even they may be Shakti Avesh avatars, they'll still continue to perform duties within Varnashram, Prahlad Maharaj as well, as setting an example. So then even the Paramahamsas would apply this in their life, perhaps, but they wouldn't be attached to it. It would just be part of their function in society to encourage others to become uplifted until such time as they also become perfect.
Chikarshur Lokasangraha. He quoted it 3 days ago in that blanket. It's a blanket. Chikarshur Lokasangraham. Chikarshur Lokasangraham. Chikarshur Lokasangraham. Where are we? 25?
26.
25?
26.
Me 26?
You 26.
Wow. Uh-oh, we have 3 minutes. So, Madhva has hand up. Tie goes to the runner. Infield fly rule.
In India, like Mataji said, previously there was this elaborate system of all kinds of rituals and things. People were like really in the family tradition following those things. And if we tell them that this is like empty, it's not really efficient nowadays, it's like it's normal that their life becomes, some of those who follow the smartest still make some show. They feel like you're taking everything from them. And also another thing is that because they are doing those things so elaborately, and because we say our Sankirtan movement, actually Sankirtan Yaga is much more powerful, and if we do it in the same focused and intense, elaborate way, then they can possibly take it. But if we are doing it like we do not give really good example and just we think that we are doing some Sankirtan Yaga, it's much better than what you do, and they are like serious, really putting attention and effort in what they do, but we are like, not very serious, then it cannot really make the proper impression.
Well, I like your point, and maybe this is similar to what you're saying, or it's definitely related. When Prabhupada opened the temple in Vrindavan in 1975, he brought in all the smartas to do the rituals. They went on for hours and hours and hours and hours, and we could see Prabhupada sitting there. You can still see in the videos, he's kind of like tolerating all these things. Meanwhile, we had the Harinam going on, and Prabhupada was, giving us the nod, like, this is good. And later he wrote about it in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Also Bhagavatam, that's Bhagavatam. We read it earlier. It's in the 5th canto, and or maybe 6th. And he said that those rituals weren't necessary. Just the Harinam was necessary. But if he hadn't have performed those yagyas according to the local smartas, we wouldn't have had an actual, real bona fide temple there. So this is, another way that devotees accommodate what the local people are thinking, so that they can go on with administering the Harinam at the same time.
And not only that, but he said that those same people, because they had so much influence and power, they could have made very difficult us doing things, getting the things to do the. It was also practical.
Well, that brings us to the end of the morning session. We thank everyone for joining us here for the readings, and we look forward to seeing you again here at 3:30 for the afternoon reading. Gaur Premanande Anitta Gaura Haribo 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 Nitta Gaura Haribo Nitta Gaura Haribo Bo Haribo Nitta Gaura Haribo. Vanchakalptarubhascha kripasnabheva patitanam pavanibhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo namaha Natakati Vaishnaviniki Jai.